Sorry, guys. I forgot I was going live or supposed to go live. So I'm just gonna wait and see if anybody even shows up. I don't blame you if you don't. Okay. I actually gotta put some of these photos in the community tab so you guys can see them. They fell out on me. But look at this. Isn't that crazy? That's a lot of kids. Oh my god. Like a lot. Hey, cool gamer. That is Rachel and her son Nathaniel. They're at the bottom. Wow. All right, I'm just gonna start reading. Like I said, I forgot I was supposed to go live. I just got back from going out for a walk. All right, we're on chapter 16. We moved back to South Dakota in August 2008, 4 months after the raid, and life returned more or less to normal. It seemed like I was pregnant constantly for the next few years. After Rulon, I had a girl, Lavender, who was born in 2009. Then I had two miscarriages. The first at 12 weeks and the second at just 10 weeks. And both times, Rich wrote to Father to tell him what had happened. Father told Rich to take me to a professional doctor and to get a D&C. Then in June 2010, I got pregnant again, and this time it took. Hey, triple threat. Oh, no worries. I forgot I was supposed to go live, so I'm the one that's late. Shortly thereafter, Rich came to my room one morning and asked me to shower with him. I knew he'd been with another of his wives who was trying to start out with a baby the previous night. That is so odd. I could not do that. Rachel, what's wrong with you? Rich said when he could see me hesitating. You can't treat me like I don't know what you were doing last night, I said. It's not easy knowing you had intercourse with another wife and you come asking me to shower right after. How can you do that? She got a point. Even though the law of purity said it was forbidden to have any sexual intercourse with a woman was pregnant, Rich fudged this by doing pretty much everything but intercourse with me when I was expecting. Guy's a pig. Like he doesn't stop. They're all pigs. Rich looked taken aback. I had told myself to keep my thoughts to myself so that I wouldn't risk punishment, but I had to speak up. I don't do for my other wives what I do for you, Rich said. I don't shower with the other ladies when they're pregnant. You should be grateful that I give you more of my time and love than I do that. See, that's when I'd punch him. That's just me, though. I swallowed my pride and decided to be grateful for the attention, even if I suspected he had said similar things to some of his other wives. It was frustrating that sharing my husband still bothered me, but I couldn't help it. This is so messed up. I just don't understand how anybody, I guess you grow up in this atmosphere, you're told this is right. It's so much to so much to handle, you know. The following month, we received the startling news that Father's conviction in Utah had been reserved by the Supreme Court because of faulty jury instruction. The Supreme Court said the trial judge should have told the jury that they couldn't find Father guilty unless he specifically intended Elisa Wall's husband to force her to have non consensual sex. Alyssa was willing to testify a second time if there was a new trial, but the prosecutors were undecided about trying the case again. In the meantime, Texas was gearing up to extradite Father to face charges there, and he remained in prison until the various authorities decided what to do with him. As always, Father's legal troubles didn't stop him from sending messages to people. See, I have a huge problem with that. A huge problem with that. It's even in this book. It's clearly true. Why is he allowed to still say things while he's in prison? I don't understand that and why they're allowing it. He should have no rights whatsoever. In August, he sent a message to Rich telling him to go to R17 to receive further training. Father was still limited to communication with that land of refuge, so Rich had to go there to speak with him. Rich took me with him so I could see my family. While Rich was off getting his training, I spent time with my brothers and sisters. It was great to see them, just as it always was, but Angela told me that Father had been sending weird corrections to the people lately. Many men had been sent away from their homes and families for minor infractions, like missing a men's morning prayer or building a structure the wrong way. Often there was no reason given at all. I didn't see Rich all day. When he came to bed that night, he was behaving standoffish and out of sorts. I put my arm around him, hoping to comfort him or whatever was bothering him, but he quickly removed my arm. What's the matter? Rich had never done that before. Select men have been given a revelation that we as husbands and wives can no longer have marital relationships. How do these people not see this as so effed up? This doesn't make sense. Really? I tried to hide my dismay, but failed. The Lord wants us to prove worthy of greater ordinances and blessings by sacrificing our selfishness and wanting to show love to one another. Okay. I wondered why Father was doing this to us. I suspected it was because he didn't want us to have something he couldn't have behind bars. Honestly, that makes a lot of sense. Going forward, Rich still invited his wives to sleep in his bed, but he was extra cautious about touching us, and there were no more showers together. He gave us a good morning hugs and kisses, but nothing else. He was determined to obey the prophet because he didn't want to lose his place in the church or lose his family. This pregnancy turned out to be one of the hardest because Rich was so careful not to show me too much love. He was grateful that we were having this baby. Who knew when we might be able to have another? He treated me kindly, but the distance was hard for me. Rich now Rich was now the bishop at R23 in South Dakota, so he received a lot of personal messages from Father. I suspected that if Father knew Rich still shared his bed with us, he would be angry, since he believed no one could control their physical desires just like he couldn't. I got a few messages from Father here and there, mostly telling me how to be a better wife and a mother. It seemed to me he wasn't in a very good position to tell me how to be a better person, but then he never had been. I had my little boy in March 2011. Father named him Nathaniel. That is messed up. The following month, the new meeting house was nearly complete. It was only missing the decks on the upper floors, so we could now have Sunday gatherings on it. The structure was designed to serve as a school as well. And we as mothers were excited that our children would be able to go to a real school and have real teachers. I always played piano in general meetings, so my sister wives looked after my children while we sang and prayed. One Sunday, after we had just finished singing, and a member was saying the prayer, I heard a loud scream in the hall. One of my sister wives, Susan, came into the meeting room carrying my son Rulon, who was then 3. He was very pale and limp. What happened? I was terribly upset. Just as prayer was starting, Rulon ran out of that door at the end of the hall where there's no deck. Oh no. He'd fallen 2 stories onto the concrete sidewalk. You picked him up. You never pick someone up when they have an accident like that. You're supposed to leave them and call 911. What if he broke his neck? Soon as been on the verge of tears, I knew it wasn't her fault, but right then I was so scared for my little boy that I didn't care. Rich took Rulon in his arms and carried him out to his Ford Expedition. Can we take him to the hospital? I said as I followed him out, not without permission from your father. That's wow. But Rulon can hardly move. What if something in his back is broken? I could tell Rich was not happy with how upset I was. I tried to sweetly put my point across that I was serious about taking Rulon in for help, but it was crazy that I had to beg him or get our son. his son the medical treatment he clearly needed. Wow. Rachel, I will give him a blessing and he will be fine. Can you imagine your own child falling 2 stories on concrete at 4 years old and your husband's telling you, well, I have to go talk to your husband, which is in prison. It's not like you can just call him up and be like, hey, can I go to the hospital right now? I think this kid's going to die. Wow. And then for the husband to have the balls to say, I will give him a blessing and he will be fine. Back at home, Rich carried Rulon into his room and lay him on a reclining chair. Rulon had a huge bump on his forehead, and he was so weak he could hardly make a sound. Rich gave him a blessing while I held his hand. I was angry at Susan. I was angry at the men who had not secured an upper story door where there was no deck yet. I was angry at Rich for not letting Rulon go to the hospital. I hid my face in my arm because I didn't want my little boy to see me crying. Rich took Rulon in his arms and held him. After a few minutes, I walked out of the room and called my sister Marianne, who was living at father's house at R23. Please ask Isaac to tell Rich to take Rulon to the hospital so we can make sure he's okay, I said. Uncle Isaac was the most senior person in the church after father, but he usually wouldn't do anything without father say so. Marianne said she would ask anyway. That night, Rulon started to scream in pain. I didn't know what to do for him because I didn't know what was causing it. Aside from the bump on his head, there was no outward signs of injury. I gave him Tylenol, but it didn't seem to help much. I was a wreck. I had a newborn, a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old who couldn't walk or sleep because he was suffering in so much pain. I don't think I can put up with this much longer, I said to Rich this morning. In the morning, I really want to take him to the doctor. Just wait a little longer and we'll see if he starts feeling better. This is sick. This is disgusting. This is child abuse. I was furious. Rich tried to console me, but I turned my back on him. Rachel, if he isn't walking in a few days, I will take him to a doctor. I said nothing, but in my mind raged. Yesterday, right after he fell, that was the time not to just take him to a doctor, but to call an ambulance. What is wrong with you? This child needs help. I sat on the couch next to my son and I wept. Later that day, Uncle Isaac called Rich and told him that father wanted Rulon to go to the doctor. Actually, I think he's doing better, Rich said. What? No, no, he isn't. We need to take him. Finally, that afternoon, Rich took Rulon and me to the hospital, where the medical staff thought we were crazy for not calling 911 in the first place. It was impossible to explain the reason we hadn't. Rulon was diagnosed with a broken pelvis, a broken hip, and a major concussion. He didn't walk for several weeks. I was not surprised at the doctor's diagnosis, given how much pain Rulon seemed to be in. Wow, that poor baby. We would have to go back to the doctor repeatedly over the next few months to make sure that the growth plate in Rulon's hip was okay. I was pleased that my son was healing, but it shouldn't have been so difficult to get him the help he needed. I could not understand how Rich's um, obstinance to a man, not obstinate, how Rich was to this man in prison and that he was more important than the well being of his own child. A few weeks after Rulon's accident, father sent a revelation to the President of the United States. What? I gotta read that one again. Hey, Autistic Show. Okay. A few weeks after Rulon's accident, Warren Jeffs sent a revelation to the President of the United States. That was how we learned that Osama bin Laden had been killed. Father's message for President Barack Obama said that God had shown Father that the world was wicked for celebrating the notorious terrorist's death. This is incredible. Incredibly insane. We might not have known anything about the leader of Al Qaeda or what had happened on September 11th, 2001, if Father had not felt it was important enough event that the people had been allowed to watch television news that day. Our grandmother still had a television back then, although most of us were forbidden to watch anything but those few children's movies my sister Becky and I had watched when we were little girls. The prohibition against television was reinstated a day or two later when father told the people that they were being distracted by the events of the world and neglecting their own preparation for father's deliverance and priesthood blessings. Years later, when I saw documentaries about bin Laden, the man's ability to brainwash his people to do his bidding reminded me very much of father. I second that, lady. Since Rich was now bishop, our house was the center of the action at R23. Shh, Jack. Rich had an office at home, and people were always coming and going to meetings with him. They were new buildings, and Jack, come on, man! I didn't even say your name today. Jack. There were new buildings under construction, and the crews continued to struggle with impossible to meet deadlines, so there was plenty to keep Rich busy. Father's wives did most of the storehouse work, which gave me and my sister wives more time to homeschool our children. The school we hoped for in the meeting house never opened. Work in the gardens and keep our home tidy, which was a big challenge with that many children in the house. Since none of us were having relations with Rich, the tension that had always been there seemed to dissipate. If Rich stayed out working late, the five of us would sit around and gossip to relax after getting all the children settled in their beds, even though we weren't supposed to. What? You can't gossip after getting the children settled into beds. We laughed and sang songs when we were working together at our daily chores too, and we didn't talk about the fact that we were all going without physical affection, but it served us as an unspoken bond among us and brought us closer. Thanks to Father, those happy days were about to change once more. 1 year and I haven't gone crazy yet. No, surprisingly. Thank you. All right, now we're on chapter 17. This is called The Noose Titans. Oh, shit. Forgot I'd make a moment. When the prosecutors in Utah declined to retry Father, he was immediately extradited to Texas to face charges there stemming from the evidence collected at R-17 during the raid in 2008. Father's trial began in late July 2011 in San Angelo. Father had hired and fired several attorneys before he decided to represent himself. Hey, Juju. Wow, of course he would. He's a narcissist. So, of course, absolutely, he would defend himself. The prosecutor presented two felony charges. The first was for the aggravated sexual assault of one of Father's wives, who had been just 12 years old. Never forget hearing that friggin' tape, that recording. The second charge was for sexual assault of another wife, a 15-year-old. While the prosecutor described the evidence to be presented, including documents, audio, and video recordings, the DNA analyst, Father, remained silent at the defense table. Father raised no objections until the next day. In fact, and when he did, he spoke for over an hour. And the gist was that he was claiming religious freedom. Later that day, he read a revelation to the court while the jury was out of the room. I, the Lord God of heaven, call upon the court to now seize this persecution against my holy way. Oh my God. Hey, Teresa. No, don't worry about it. You're here. Now, Jeff's in court. Jeff. Warren. Oh my God. He went on to essentially threaten that the prosecution would be humbled by sickness and death. Can you imagine? Wow. The judge reprimanded him and forbade him from saying anything like that in front of the jury. I think you're on my nose. Oh, shit. No, no, you're good. It's okay. There we go. You're pressing buttons here, darling. One of Grandfather Roulon's wives, Rebecca Musser, she had left the church after his death because, huh? Oh, one of Grandfather Roulon's wives, Rebecca Musser, she had left the church after his death because Father had insisted she marry again, and she didn't want to. Testified about the role of women in the FLDS and told the court that their salvation, according to the church, came from submitting to their husbands. I wish I was there to see these people's faces because just reading this book here is mind blowing. This is insane. But it was Father's careful record keeping of his own life that had given the state its case. The prosecution only had to read what Father had written or instructed others to write on his behalf, including descriptions of the assaults on his wives. What an idiot, as if he wrote it down like it was gospel. Wow. During some of these graphic details, Father objected repeatedly, often invoking the Lord. There was even an hour-long audio tape of Father giving instructions to a quorum of 12 ladies about having group sex. Finally, a DNA expert confirmed that Father had sired a baby with his 15-year-old wife. Another recording proved the assault on the 12-year-old, in which he addressed her by name. Yeah, that was the one that I heard. I don't recommend. If any of you watch Keep Sweet and Obey, I do not recommend listening to that part. I didn't know that was going to happen, and I can't. I can't get over it. 12 years old. Hey, sassy. Father didn't have much of a defense. His only witness was a member of the church who didn't do anything for Father's case. It took the jury 4 hours to convict him on both counts. That's amazing. 4 hours. The penalty phase of the trial introduced a raft of new information about Father's 78 wives, many of whom had been grandfather's wives before he died. Father's own mothers, in other words, and ew, that would be right. Oh, and nearly a third of them underage. The state also presented evidence of all the polygamous marriages he'd performed, families he'd broken up, men he'd sent away, and additional sexual assaults on children, including his own underage brides. The state knew nothing about Father's relationship with me. He had kept no records of that. Father chose not to be in the courtroom during this part, so he relinquished his defense to the standby attorney while he waited it out in the courtroom across the hall with the guard. It took the jury less than an hour on August 9th, 2011, to come back with Father's sentence: life in prison. Hey, Brenda. Hope those sons of bitches left you alone. And I think I'm going to stick with the Shh. He's mouthy tonight. Jack. Yeah, I agree. It's been good today. Good. Hey, Jack. Shh. Shh. As usual, Father took a suffering out on people. Even as the trial was underway, he continued to regularly send revelations, and life got stricter with every single one. Father had already been a big believer that cleanliness was next to godliness, but now we were required to submit a written report to the bishop saying that we had deep cleaned every inch of the house the way the Lord had directed us to. Hey, Nan. Hey, Big Mama. This is crazy. These men are sick. My brother-in-law saw Warren Jess in jail in Arizona. He said he looked like a weirdo and just stared straight ahead. I wouldn't doubt it. Honestly, wouldn't doubt it. He does look like a weirdo. He looks like he would have been the biggest nerd in school, and he how he got authority, I'd love to know. He's sick. He's disgusting. He's sick. He should be on death row. The directions were very specific. Start by cleaning with your right hand. Are you fucking kidding me? Try not to swear, but I can't help it. The directions were very specific. Start by cleaning with your right hand on the center of the ceiling in each room and work down from there. Really? Hold the clean rags in the right hand. Right hands must never touch anything dirty. When the rag became dirty, we were to take it in our left hand and wash it. Left hands were for touching anything soiled. These people have to be like really messed up, really, really, like really effed up in the head in order to literally follow these instructions because God said so. No. Yes, exactly. None. Yes, I agree. Oh my God, this is nuts. Our food restrictions became tighter as well. Father forbade, oh my, No potatoes, no milk, no beans, no squash, peas, oats, onions, and garlic, which made it challenging to cook a meal that tasted of anything. You need milk for the children at least, you would think, right? Help their bones grow. It's usually what it's for. Cereal. Yeah, they're reading the wrong Bible, all right. Bible from hell. His hell, which I hope he goes to if there's such a thing. The Bible does not say cleanliness is next to godliness. That's a wives' tale. That's what I thought too. Yeah, nothing healthy. So what the hell do I eat? Do they eat dirt? That's crazy. Like oats, squash, beans, they're all healthy. I don't understand that. Hey, heavenly cow. Brenda. We were encouraged to eat mostly wheat products. Women and children were also required to drink an 8-ounce cup of water twice an hour on an hour and half hour precisely. Yeah, like, I'm sorry. No. No, 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 no. Somebody should have like, hello, this is not, he's in prison and he's telling you what to drink. No, no. Oh, it'd be amazing if like one of us was in that group and oh, I would give this son of a bitch some backlash. I would disobey everything just to piss him off. Yeah, they controlled the food. Once he was in prison, he started controlling the food. How they clean, laughter, get this, laughter was deemed light-mindedness and therefore a sin. You can't laugh now. Children were required to have a mother's guiding hand at all times of the day, rendering them incapable of taking care of their own most basic needs as they grew older. The people were also told that everything they possessed, all of their money and personal items, actually now belonged to the church. Every month, the people were required to take inventory of their personal possessions and turn the document in to the bishop. And the bishop is now Rachel's husband, which is Warren Jeff's daughter. I didn't know that. Animation. Yeah, I'm learning so much more, Sassy, with this book. This one here is the one that Warren Jeff's daughter Rachel wrote. There's a lot of stuff in here I did not know. The people were also told that everything they possessed, all their money and everything. Oh, I just read that. Okay. And once a year, the people would be required to take all of their personal belongings to the church store to consecrate it to the Lord. And then they were allowed to take back only what they needed to stay alive. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, they just want to starve these women, feed them nothing but bread and water like prison in the medieval times. His daughter was saying in this book that she feels like because he's in prison, that he was trying to make it a prison for them. She thinks maybe he was got that mentality. I wouldn't doubt it. I can only imagine that father's incarceration had sent him over the edge and coming up with these rules and revelations about miniature I don't even know how to say that. Minuete. No, don't know. About rules and revelations that are kept in our lives, his mind occupied in his prison cell. When father wasn't making new rules, he was sending more and harsher corrections. Father told Rich that he was displeased with him for not meeting a construction deadline, and he was therefore no longer bishop at South Dakota. Rich was to leave R23 and take his family to R1 in Mancos, Colorado to live. The day after receiving father's message, Rich seemed very depressed. I went to his room and closed the door behind me. Rich, I said, everything is going to be okay. I know that Heavenly Father loves you. I gave him a hug and he laid me down on his bed and he kissed me. I love you so much, he said. I'm glad you love and trust me too. I smiled as I looked up into his blue eyes and thought, why does father have to tear down everyone? Rich suddenly realized what we were doing and quickly stood up. Uh, and then force them on a hunger strike type thing. It took us a week to pack the belongings of 6 adults and abroad now that in a brood that now numbered 22 children. Then they went to make babies with those women in there. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. This guy's a son of a bitch. Now they've got 23 children, 22 children. We took the children over to father's house so they could be tended by his many childless wives. The little ones loved all the attention and the cooing, and we didn't have to worry about what mischief they were getting up to while we worked at packing. A couple of the days before we left R23, one of father's wives, Lana, told me that my sister Angela was on her way to live there in South Dakota and was expected to arrive on Saturday. Father said specifically that Rich's family had to leave by Friday, so it was clear that father was intentionally keeping me away from my closest sisters in case I had ever doubted it. I secretly called Angela. Why do you finally get to move here now that I am moving away? Angela was as disappointed as I was. I was excited that I was going to see you, she said. That Friday, after the men finished hauling our belongings out to the trailers, Rich brought a small shuttle bus to accommodate all of us, his wives and children. We were sad to be leaving South Dakota as it had been our home for almost 8 years. Like, how dare he want to make sure they stay thin? How is he allowed to get these orders to stuff from? That's what I want to know, None. How? Exactly. How? This bastard is in prison for a reason. Why is he allowed still having communication with any of these people? It doesn't make sense. And it's making me angry. He should, even to this day, he's still saying stuff. He should not be allowed at all. He's a shot caller like gang members. Oh my God. Because he's a cult leader and he is the reason for this cult, him and his damn father, I feel like they should take his privilege away from the outside world. I don't know. Maybe that's asking too much, but I feel like that's what should be done. It's just insane. Rich had been a kind and caring bishop, and all the people there were sad that he would be replaced. Many said as much, and the 60 or so men working under Rich's direction were devoted to him. As we drove off, one of the windows fell out of the bus, and all the men rushed to help us, happy for an excuse to spend a little more time with Rich. Oh. We'd have made a lot of long, difficult road trips, traveling between lands of refuge and houses of hiding, but driving 12 hours straight with nearly 2 dozen children was a special challenge. At first, the children were excited. We are moving to a new house and a new place. They laid their pillows and blankets in the coziest spot they could find, and then they got really silly and wild, talking and laughing until one of the mothers told them to be quiet and calm down. My baby, Nathaniel, was fussy, so I was focused on him most of the ride. The R1 property was cool and secluded high up a mountain. The pines were giant, the underbrush thick, and there were several ponds on the land. The garden was full and nearly ready to harvest when we arrived. What's wrong with you tonight? Psst, Jack, Jack, Jack. Shh. Sorry, just 1 second. Are you done? Nosy. His brother was on Evil Lives here. I love that show. Actually, I've been watching that on YouTube, but it's all over the place. Yeah. Send him to Alcatraz. He can ghost call it. Yep, I agree. Exactly. Prison's supposed to be a punishment. And in his case, he needs no privileges. Not even a bed concrete will do for him. Yeah, I agree. I don't understand it. I really don't. There were Cosmos and black-eyed Susans growing wild everywhere. The chicken pen was well secured because of frequent bear visits. There were several milking cows, a bull, and few calves that the children were excited to feed and take care of. Yeah, but why have cows if you can't eat the meat and you can't drink the fucking milk? That's what, yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's barking at the wall. You don't even hear him? Oh, he keeps going at me. Then he keeps going by the wall. I don't know. Something's bugging him tonight. I didn't even mention her name, so I don't know. He must be seeing something. That's what I wanna know. So that child was 4 years old, and he fell 2 stories onto concrete, broke his pelvic bone, back, you name it, right? Nobody investigated? Not one person. Why not? It just pisses me off. We had to live in 2 houses because there wasn't a single house big enough for our family. The men had built a huge log home in 2004, but father had the crew break it down in 2010 because a man he judged immoral had lived there. Really? Father even told the workmen not to save any appliances, sewing machines, dishes, or furniture because it was all marred by that man's corruption. So every inch of the house was destroyed and hauled off the land. Grass was planted in its footprint, and that area is considered corrupted to this day. To sell the milk and meat to make money to buy himself whatever he wanted while his congregation suffered. Yeah, yep. Yeah, that's what you're right. Absolutely none. Can you imagine having to do all that work and you're not even allowed to enjoy the meat or the milk, anything? You can have homemade cheese. You could like, wow. One of our homes was up on a hill and the other one down below it, next to the creek that flowed through the property year round. Rich had most of the family live down at the lower house because it had more bedrooms. The upper house had a larger kitchen, so we made meals and ate there. But what did they eat? Grass? Because weren't allowed to have anything. I don't hear anything biblical either. Every morning after 6 o'clock prayer and reading, we would put coats on the children and walk up the steep, narrow trail to the upper house for breakfast. It was important to Rich that all the children make it to breakfast on time and eat together. Rich became the bishop of R1 shortly after we moved there. He was pretty darn happy about it, mostly because he was glad that he had father's confidence again. Each wife had her special job. I don't know what that means, but they have it in quotes. Toast and water. Can you imagine? Each wife had her special job. Susan took care of the milk and made cottage cheese, sour cream, and cream cheese. Okay, so they did do those things. Molly did the milking and took care of the chickens. Gloria took care of the garden, and Trish prepared most of the meals, but they couldn't eat any of it. All of us mothers and all of the children helped with the dishes, house cleaning, harvesting the garden, and any other general duties. Rich put me in charge of running the storehouse as well as keeping track of every transaction to manage the financial incomings and outgoings on the land. It's also my job to teach school for the 5 oldest children, grades 3 through 5. I wasn't keen to do it since I had baby Nathaniel to look after, but Rich tried to make me feel better about it. If I was one of the children and had to choose one of the mothers to be my teacher, I would choose you, he said. Isn't that kind of like gaslighting? Yeah, exactly. I just don't get how they didn't see that. They read the Bible literally religiously every morning, every night, during the day. That's all they live the Bible, right? If it's not in the Bible, why the fuck are they listening to this guy? I don't get it. Maybe I just don't understand brainwashing. I don't know. Things don't add up, and you would think people would start to be like, you can't just make rules and follow them and make them follow them. It's just, yeah, they had the if these ladies had Bible study, Jesus didn't teach any of this. They must have read a Bible I've never heard of. That's what I'm saying. What is wrong with you today? Jack, come here and lay down. There was a small crew of men on the land, but Rich's wives were the only women there. Susan and I were always being told by the other sister wives and Rich that men were looking at us and getting too friendly. Oh my gosh. Our jobs required us to communicate with everyone, including the men, but every time one of the men came to talk to me, Rich would summon me to a private appointment with him where he would explain to me the error of my ways. It got to where I couldn't even talk to my brother in law, Danny Elred, without getting in trouble. That's disgusting. Rich must have written to father that the men were texting and talking to his wives because we suddenly got a new revelation explaining that texting was not of God and was no longer permissible. Of course you did. We were told that we could lose our place in our families and in the church if we sent a text message. The men also got a firm correction about getting too friendly with the women. Just living was becoming a sin. And he's not listening to me. Want a treat? Jack? Hello? Nothing. Father's next revelation was that cocoa and chocolate were not approved by the Lord for us to eat. That's funny. I didn't see that in the Bible either. Also forbidden now were corn, cabbage, and cottage cheese because these food would make our bodies sickly. I got my classroom ready by September 1st, the day Father required everyone in church to start school. I tried to think up anything that could be entertaining that wasn't technically a game. We often studied by the stream when the weather was good. Sometimes I would let the children try to catch fish in the stream with their hands, and they were actually successful a few times. Yeah, but were they allowed to eat it? Other times we would go on a four-wheeler ride, take walks, or chase crows. The sister wives weren't always supportive of my teaching of the children, but I enjoyed spending the time with the kids, and the kids appreciated it. Ugh, Father's next message was a surprise. Uncle Isaac told us that Father wanted to see my sister Becky and me. He had been sent to the prison hospital in Galveston, Texas with pneumonia. Good. Father had not allowed me to visit him since his arrest 5 years earlier. All of his adult children had seen him except me, which, to make myself feel better about the rejection, I chalked it up to his guilty conscience. Yeah, for touching her. Rich drove me with baby Nathaniel to to Galveston on September 5th so we could see Father the next day. Becky went separately with David and their youngest child. I was mostly excited about the trip because I would get to see the sea for the first time ever. As we got close by the bay, a sense of excitement filled me. I wanted to shout like a child as I looked over the water, but I didn't. Instead, I sat there with a sense of satisfaction settled over me. I exclaimed, "Oh, it's so beautiful." Isaac Jeffs had gotten us a room in a hotel next to the water. We had to stop there to freshen up before going to the prison hospital. When I stepped out of the truck at the hotel and breathed in the salty air, I felt a strong sense of contentedness. "I love it here," I said to no one in particular. We got changed and then drove over to the hospital. The prison hospital was a tall white building with dark windows. At the appointed time, Rich and I took an elevator to the seventh floor where we met up with Becky and David. Rich and David were going to babysit while we went to see Father. Becky and I showed our IDs to the attendant, and he took us through the door leading to the inmates. It was eerie to walk through the iron doors and have them shut behind us, knowing they were meant to keep dangerous people inside. It was a strange thing to realize that my father was considered dangerous enough to be locked up. Even though I had been subjected to his bad actions, part of me still felt sad that this is where he ended up. My dog, he's my little Shih Tzu. Inside, two guards escorted us down the long hall into Father's room. I didn't recognize the man in that bed. He was very thin, and his head was shaved bald. Rachel, you will act like Father looks like you remember him, even though he doesn't, I thought. I walked over to Father and kissed him on his cheek. Oh, I couldn't. And sat down on the chair at the end of his hospital bed. Becky followed suit. Becky was very nervous and fidgety. She had been going through a lot of family struggles, and she believed that Father could read her mind. Wow. I wanted to tell Becky to calm down, that Father really couldn't see every little thing about her life. That's terrifying. Can you imagine? Father asked us each how we were doing. I smiled and said really well. Becky said so too. He talked to us about how to be good. What? He talked to us about how to be good priesthood mothers and how to raise up children of Zion or Zion, whatever the hell it is. Becky opened his lunch container, which was sitting on the table. "So what are they feeding you?" she asked as she opened it. "Don't touch it. You don't need to touch it," Father said. I could see it was fish with rice and broccoli. He's getting fed better than these guys. Okay, Becky said, covering it back up and putting her hands back in her lap. "It looks better than I thought." Father often complained that they didn't feed him very well, and I don't think he wanted us to know otherwise. Exactly. Rachel, you were on the right path, he said. You are doing very well, and the Lord is pleased with you. Then he said to Becky, you need to be at peace. I didn't want to say anything wrong that make father judge me unworthy of any blessings, so I mostly sat quietly and let him do the talking. After an hour, the guards told us our time was up and escorted us out. It's 5:30 when Rich and I got back to the hotel. Rich wanted to know every detail of our visit. I gave him the overview, but I had a more pressing issue. The Gulf of Mexico was calling to me. I had to get in the ocean, I said. When will I get another chance? It's going to be dark soon, Rich said. Are you sure? Very. The beach was just across the street and down a few stairs. We didn't have swimsuits. They were forbidden. So what, you just go naked? So I took off my shoes and socks and walked into the surf in my dress. Rich was holding Nathaniel back on the sidewalk. Come down here, the water's very warm. I don't want to get my clothes wet, Rich shouted. Please, it's so awesome. Rich gave in and joined me. A storm was blowing in, so the water was quite rough, but it made for a beautiful evening. The sunset was magnificent. The lovely stones of pink and lavender spread across the sky. I really like this girl and how she can make the most awful things loving and pretty and worth seeing. You know what I mean? It was one of the best evenings I had in a long time. There in the ocean with my husband and my baby, I felt happy. Father must have enjoyed our visit. He sent kind messages to me for a little while afterward, addressing me as my sweet daughter Rachel, or my loving daughter Rachel, and telling me he loved me, which he hadn't done in a long time. This guy. Yeah, it wasn't aggressive. Aw. Oh, maybe. Yeah, he was getting fed better than his own wives and his daughters. And after my mom passed, my dog would stare and wag his tail and turn in circles like he did when a race. I'm sorry your mom passed. That is amazing, though. It's okay. One morning, Rich came to me and said that he wanted to take Rulon to work with him. A few hours later, he called me at the upper house. Rachel, come to my room. When I got to the lower house, I found Rich holding Rulon, who was wailing. Look at this, he said as he started rolling up Rulon's pant leg. I gasped when I saw the 6-inch gash that bloomed in Rulon's lower leg. We are going to the hospital, I said, now. Do you think we could stitch it up or something? Oh my God, these people are. You can see the bone, Rich. If you don't want to take him to the hospital, I will go without you. That is, oh my God, all because you don't want to disobey that piece of shit that's sitting in prison? The kid's got a long gash. The bones, you could see the damn bone. And he doesn't want, oh, can we stitch it? No. Perhaps remembering the last time he'd argued for a blessing over an injury that had left Rulon unable to walk for 2 weeks, Rich said yes. On the way, he told me that while he was helping the other men pour cement for a foundation, Rulon had started playing with the jumping jack, the heavy tool that pounds the cement, and somehow tipped it over onto his leg. Oh, shit. The weight of the jack ripped his calf muscles clean off the bone. Yeah, I agree with you, autistic. That I've always had something, male presence, usually an asshole. Bruin received 40 stitches that day. The doctor had to sew up the inside as well as the outside to hold his leg together. Wow. Can you imagine if her husband said, no, that I have to get a hold of your father? We were an accident prone family, it seemed. No, you weren't, honey. You were in a cult. Gloria, Molly, and I were down at the lower house with the younger children when Molly's daughter Rihanna and Barbie came running in breathless. Mother Trish died. Mother Trish died. Trish had taken the four oldest girls and her baby on a full four-wheeler ride. I took both girls by the hand. Calm down. You don't need to yell. Show us where she is. We followed the girls down the mountain a little ways to the stream. Trish was lying on the ground, unconscious, and the girls were by her side, screaming and crying. Trish had been driving up a steep hill when she hit a rock. The four-wheeler had tipped over on top of them, and they'd rolled to the bottom of the hill. Trish clearly needed help, so I ran to get Rich, who was in the storehouse having men's prayer. Knocked on the door, and he gave me a look that said, "How dare I disturb them?" "Trish is hurt bad," I said. Rich's face lost its stern expression and went pale as he jumped up. He ran, and Thomas Roundy, one of the laborers at R1, followed me to where Trish was lying on the ground. Her daughter, Sarah, was hurt too. Her knee was dislocated and her arm was broken. The other girls seemed to be okay. Since Rich was a bishop in Colorado, everyone looked to him for direction, but all he said was, "What should we do?" Everyone's so used to needing permission to go to a doctor that even after our multiple experiences with our children, Rich and the others were paralyzed without guidance. "This is when we call 911," I said. I took my phone out of my pocket and dialed. No one protested. Good for her. Yeah, he would have lost his leg. Exactly. No, no. Yeah, exactly. If there was something wrong with him, he'd ambulance, he'd get the whole everything. I stayed on the phone with dispatch while they sent an ambulance and a life flight helicopter. The police arrived too to take an accident report. Rich told them that Trish had been riding with only Sarah because it was probably a violation of some kind to have so many children on one vehicle. You fucking think? God, these people are idiots. The mothers are idiots. Yeah, how'd you know that, Nana? Yeah, there's a cemetery right beside me. And I believe, I can't prove it. Well, maybe. I'll have to go to the library, but there's apparently an Indian burial ground in there as well. You can see it. It's a big mound. I don't know what happened, mother. I felt this tipping over and then I felt like I was on a pillow. Went out my eyes, Rihanna and I were at the top of the hill looking down at Mother Trish and the other girls at the bottom. Rihanna told a similar story. "I was so grateful that my daughter wasn't hurt. I believed it was a miracle." Trish was pretty badly injured. The four-wheeler had landed right on top of her during the fall and crushed several ribs, and her wrists were badly broken. The doctors at the hospital kept her heavily sedated for 2 weeks so she could heal. Rich stayed with her almost constantly, coming home only to shower and change clothes. When father heard about the accident, he sent he sent a revelation that God did not accept four-wheelers on his lands of refuge. Why don't you just say you don't want them there? Just popped in your head over and over. That's weird, but true. There's also an indigenous he was brutally murdered. I did a story on him a few months back. It was sad. You're weird. I like it. Brown clothes, tassels, like lean and just yeah. Hopefully it's here to protect me. That would be lovely. This was a big blow for everyone. It was hard to get around the lands of refuge without four-wheelers because they could go where most vehicles couldn't. We used them to herd cattle, carry building supplies to remote locations, and run errands. The truckloads of them were taken off all three lands of refuge as well as Short Creek. Four-wheelers have become the new sin. Trish was finally released from the hospital after more than a month. We were also glad to have her and Rich back home. Then Father sent a new revelation that Rich read to us at Sunday meeting. Husbands and wives could no longer hug each other. Oh my God, this is insane. Oh, maybe. Husbands and wives can no longer hug each other. Only a quick handshake was acceptable to God. Father told us that God wanted us to give up our selfish way of loving one another and that we would be taught a new way to love. I feel like he is trying to torment these people. He is tormenting these people. He's saying all these things. He's making all these things happen because of the fact that he can't get this in prison. That's what I feel like. It's one thing to go without sex, but totally another thing to go without affection, period. Father really wants us to feel how he feels, I thought. Yes, girl, yes. Don't listen to him. In my heart, I did not accept this revelation. Good girl. Which would essentially make my husband less than a brother to me. Huh? Our children would never see that their parents loved each other, and their parents would have to erase or at least deny their own love for each other. I couldn't imagine how things could get any worse until they did. No, it's fine. No, no, no. I don't mind at all. I love talking about stuff like that. A few short weeks after she returned, Trish received a correction from father. She was to go to Short Creek to repent, which blamed me for it. I could only imagine it was because I was father's daughter. Rich was angry about what father had done, and taking it out on me was the closest he would get to making father pay. A few days after Trish left, Rich came to my room. I want you to pack your stuff. I'm sending you to Short Creek until I get a message from your father about what to do with you. You can take your two youngest children. Holy crap. I agree, Big Mama. Yep. But they're his children too. Are you serious? I thought he was joking. He had never done anything like this to me before. I hadn't done anything to warrant this kind of punishment. But I had to obey. Rich had the authority as my husband and as Bishop of R1. I believe that once I wrote to father and explained the situation, though, he would make sure I returned to the rest of my children. Thomas Roundy drove me and the two little ones, Lavender and Nathaniel, to Short Creek. There he helped me get settled in a room in father's house. I wrote to father immediately. It was the only thing that could fix this mess, or so I thought. It often took up several weeks for messages from father to travel back to people. After the expected amount of time passed, Rich showed up at my room. Father had instructed him to move his whole family to father's family former home in Short Creek. The house, which had previously housed father's many children and wives, was used by the bishop, John Wayman, but father instructed him to clear it out for us. It was far too big for Rich's family, and I hated the thought of living among my memories of the place. So this was the house she grew up in with her father. Yeah, they should have done it for free. Although she was already in Shore Creek, Trish was not allowed to live with us. Rachel, do you want your mother's room? Rich asked. No, I couldn't get the word out of my mouth fast enough. My sister's wives looked surprised. Why wouldn't you want your mother's room? Because, was all I could say. I was happy to have all my children with me, but I hated Shore Creek as much as I ever had. I missed the openness of the lands of refuge. The children did too. Here we were surrounded by walls and the barren desert. It felt suffocating and very boring. So let's see how long this chapter is. Okay, this one's really long. All right, I'll stop there and just read for the hour here. I will be back every Wednesday, I swear. I'm on enough medication to knock a horse down, like antibiotic wise, anyways. I used to live in an 1800s funeral home. Now that has some stories that happened when I lived there. Oh, I would love to hear those stories. Usually in October, I'm going to do it in October, but every single night I will live stream and it's all going to be about the supernatural every single day. Night, every single night, I'll live stream. I did that last year and I loved it. It was my favorite thing to do. You live close to a cemetery. It's actually just at the Park 2 blocks. So what's sad is that it's hidden behind a gas station. I'm hoping that so the highway noise isn't as bad. Oh wow. Yeah. I've been back and forth. Oh my gosh, from this doctor. I'm surprised he didn't call me a hypochondriac, but he obviously knew there was something wrong. Yeah, I'm gonna be done for now. I do have like strep throat. It's a lot better. Oh yeah, I keep cutting sick trees. I can't catch a damn break at all. But I'm on penicillin for it. Before that was a bladder infection. Before that was the virus. And before that was the virus. I don't know. Best one was coming downstairs to get water, seeing a lady in all black standing next to an antique. Oh, really? I mean, I feel better, but I can't. Ugh. I don't know. I don't know what to do. You gonna watch the replay? Alrighty. The Hebrew sick benefits sanitarium more greater than my opportunity. Oh, okay. I know I do. Well, one of my subscribers told me that I need to check to see if I live somewhere where there's a lot of radon. Turns out I do. I really do. Yeah, the beer virus. I had it twice this summer. And then my grams passed, so I haven't been going live a lot. Then I get the bladder infection. Then I get this shit. It's like, really? I think it's from yeah, I take vitamin D, 2000 what is it? IU whatever the hell it is. I take 2000 of it every day. I don't know. I think it's because of the radon it's called. I checked my area and we're at almost 20% and you are able to live with radon as long as it's only at 4%. I'm at like cancer causing radon stage. Yeah. Hey, Benita. So I need to call. Well, I did call my landlord. They haven't called me back. You take 50,000 vitamin D? Really? I'd only take two. Maybe I should up it then. If it's safe to take 50,000, I'm game. Seems like a lot, but I don't know. The pharmacist told me to take 2,000 a day in the winter and 1,000 in the summer, but I'm still taking two. No, I've never had my thyroid checked. Yes, I have had my thyroid checked. Sorry. Holy shit. No, no. That's it. IUD and iron, but I keep forgetting. I'm always bruising over the small. Yeah, I would definitely take that. She must take it in MCG. Yeah, because that sounds like a lot. Oh, no, what's going on? I was just reading that book and just talking about how I'm always sick. It's ridiculous. Like, I love my channel. I love being on it. I love going live, and I just never can. It's just been a hard year for me for being sick. My grandmother passing, it just kind of all went into one. I'm hoping after this I should be fine. I'm on this prescription until I guess I got 4 more days left. Yeah, 2.5 years in the hospital. Oh my gosh. All right, you have a great night. I'm gonna get off here anyways. I'm gonna see if we have enough time to go get a milkshake. I feel a lot better today. So I want to go get a milkshake. Oh, I'm tired, but ugh. It came at the end, of course. No worries. You can always watch the replay. Just me reading. Yeah, I don't feel like well, I'm thinking the milkshake will be amazing because my throat is still sore. Not as bad as it was, but it's still sore, you know. Surprised I was even able to read, but I did. So I want a milkshake now. All right, you guys have a great night. I didn't do any smoothies better for you. No smoothie. I want full fat vanilla milkshake. It is better, yeah. The closest thing to me is Burger King. I don't think they have smoothies. Hey, Melanie. Warm honey with water. Ooh, that's a good idea. Yeah, the radon. I know. It's a good thing my sub told me about it. So now I'm gonna have to fight it. I don't know if I have to go to court or what, but that definitely rings true of why I'm always sick. There's no reason why I should always be sick. Like I eat healthy, always eat healthy, you know. I've never just been eat I never just eat junk food. I don't eat takeout all the time. I do eat takeout. Yeah, not all the time though. For one, I can't afford it, but we always make healthy meals every single day. I take my vitamins. Yeah, I live near the wildfires. I'm wondering, I don't know if that right now there's no pollution for us. There was. Yeah, I could live on ice cream too. Yeah, like a hot tea with honey. Like a chamomile tea with honey. I'll have that later, I think. Aluminum hat. Just get me a damn bubble and throw me in the freaking hospital, I'm telling you. I did get really, really, really sick though in 2008. I was 24 and I had a stroke and I had bacterial meningitis. Ever since then, I'm always sick. Always. My immune system is like shit. It's sort of improving with the vitamins and stuff, but I'll never be the same. All right, I'm gonna get up here because I have to. It's dark now. Yeah, I hate the dark. You had your son in 2008? Yeah, we'll go get a milkshake. I'm gonna go con Leland into coming with me. All right, you guys have a great night. I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. If I still feel good like this, I'm gonna go live. I miss doing it. All right, you guys have a good night. I'll be back tomorrow anyways with a video or something. Bye, guys.